All right, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are here for our 1 o'clock checking for understanding with games and assessments. I'm hopefully going to spend some time in both today, and I'm going to do my best to honor our time and be done in 30 minutes. I have a lot of resources to share. I may not get to them all, but they are all linked in this slide deck, which I am going to send to you right now in the chat so that you can access it. You'll have links to everything, including some resources having to do with going virtual and remote, et cetera, et cetera. So if you've been to our webinars before, you'll be used to this spiel here at the beginning that I'm gonna run through. If you don't know who I am Nicole Bond. I am the Educational Technology Specialist here at Lincoln Intermediate Unit. And this is our team, which has been fantastic in helping us put together all of these webinars all week, as well as putting together our LearnOn website. This has been a cross-divisional approach. We are all pitching in, whether it's with our knowledge, our expertise, in whatever way we possibly can to help you guys all get ready to roll with this. So just a few Zoom webinar meeting norms if this is your first time joining us. First, you will notice that the chat, the microphone, and the camera have been disabled. This is because of the large size of the attendee group. We can end up with a lot of things going on in chat, and I might not be able to pay attention to that and do my webinar at the same time. So if you do have any questions, know that you can use the Q&A to post those questions, but remember that the Q&A is visible to everyone, and that means my answers will be too. Chances are I'll kind of check in between different sections of the webinar on the Q&A, but a lot of times I like to save that to the end. That way everyone gets most of the material if possible. You'll notice that Q&A kind of looks like this down here at the bottom. If you really need to speak, you are welcome to raise your hand and use your microphone. I'm going to ask you to wait until the end if you would like to raise your hand in order to speak. I can then unlock your microphone and then you can unmute yourself to share if you would like. And lastly, don't forget that at the end of this, an Act 48 credit link should come out to you for you to complete so that you can get your Act 48 credits for this session. So I just want to go over some of our resources. Reminder, Act 48, you need to have your PPID, and this is for PA educators only. So if you're joining us from out of state, welcome. But unfortunately, Act 48 does not apply to you out of state. Webinar archives are available at this particular bit.ly. If you want to go back and see anything that we've done this week or next week after we're finished with most of these webinars, if you want to go back and see anything we do this week, we are recording every single one and putting it into our archives so it can be reviewed later. Additionally, you will find a lot of our resources linked out to our learnon.iu12.org site. It's a fabulous site for resources if you're looking for tutorials that go into a little farther depth than some of the things that I do today. I really suggest you go there and kind of poke around in the educator section. We have free tools and free content resources linked there as well. So it's a great place to just kind of see what's out there and what's available for you. So I'm just going to go over some of our changing expectations as we go to online learning. First is continuity of education. I would hope that most of you at this point sort of know if you're moving forward with the idea of enrichment and review, or if you're going into planned instruction, or if you're doing a combo of the two. I'm sure that that has been communicated to you. And as a reminder, please don't forget about free and appropriate public education. This applies to all online instruction. And while we often consider this in relation to our students with disabilities, also keep in mind that it applies to students' access to their materials, to technology, to the internet itself. As a reminder, less is more. Prioritize and balance has been my motto all week. Okay, you are not going to put everything that you've done onto the internet and it's going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. You got to choose what you really want to put out there, what's going to be most important to you, and you need to balance it. This also goes with home life and balancing. If you've been sitting through all of our webinars all day, please make sure you go outside. I saw the sun was out earlier. Additionally, when it comes to video, the importance of seeing your face. That's why my video is on, so that you can associate my face with my name beyond that really nice polished face that comes up all the time. This is me in real life. All right, that's important. Your students want to connect with you. They know what you look like in real life already. All right, so limit the length of your videos. If you are screencasting and posting your videos online, try to keep it under 6 minutes. That means if you have a video that's 20 minutes long, try to chunk it. Crop it down and put little activities interspersed in between those 6-minute bands. If possible, crop it even shorter. If you can do maybe 2 minutes, that's going to be better too. So as you use video, just keep that in mind. The reason we have that limit in there is because studies show us that after 6 minutes of video, engagement drops off steeply. So just keep that in mind working with video. Also, I want to remind you that when you're working online with students, you want to be really clear with your objectives and your expectations up front. The more clearly you express those at the beginning, the less issues you're going to have later. Clearly identify exactly what you want to have students to do, whether it's the number of sentences you want included, whether it's the amount of minutes that you want recorded in a video response. Just keep that in mind. When possible, try to identify the time it will take to complete a task so that when a student goes in, they know, hey, that's only going to take 5 minutes. I can get that done right now. Also, when possible, this is super important, organize and sequence your instructions. I cannot stress enough the importance of, if you possibly can, create checklists for your parents. I have several friends who have started the online learning experience, and they have been reaching out to me saying, how do I keep track of what my students or my kids are supposed to be doing? They're now my students, and I don't know how to keep track. When you push out a checklist, that gives a parent something to hold on to and be like, yes, my child has done this. Yes, my child has done this. So this is super important. Keeping us moving, webinar outcomes. I'm gonna hopefully show you a lot of different things today, and I hope it's not gonna be overwhelming. So we're gonna identify synchronous and asynchronous gaming tools. Now, I'm not going hard gaming. We're not talking about going online with an MMORPG, if you know what that is, but we are gonna be looking at GimKit. I have Kahoot linked in here. I have a couple of different ones so that you have an idea of how they work. We're gonna identify some other tools for quick assessments. And my goal is always to give you not only access to the tool, but access to like templates that are already made so you can easily make that tool work for you without too much upfront work. I do want to remind you though that this webinar is short, so I can't do the deep dive that I might if I were just teaching you one tool at a time. So if you would like more information about the specifics behind implementation, you are always able to reach out to us. I gave you my email a little earlier in here. I can give it to you again at the end if you want to send me an email. Our email is working a little bit more slowly for right now. Additionally, there's lots of tutorials on the LearnOn site, and we really encourage you to reach out to your tech directors and your instructional coaches. They are a wealth of knowledge and information, and they would love it if you reached out to them for more support or specific instructions. All right, so first things first, when it comes for checking for understanding, we kind of have to think about our depth of knowledge that we're really assessing. A lot of the gaming tools that we work with really stay at right level 1. So I do want to stop and say we're really in level 1, level 2 with a lot of the game tools that I am going to show you today. And I see you, Max. The MMORPGs are great. If we could work those in. I would say the closest you're going to get is if you look up Classcraft. I don't have Classcraft in here today. It's a very robust tool. But if you type it into your Google search engine, that might be a little closer to that MMORPG. There's some like leveling up that happens in it. It's a great behavior tool. So just something to think about. But the kids have to buy into it. I think that is really the truth behind all of our online instruction, Max, is the idea that we want those kids to buy into what we're doing. And if they don't buy in, we might put games online, but they may not be with us going to those games online. So that, I think, is a huge, great point. So coming back to my questions here, there will be options. I can show you how to do an open-ended essay response and short answer, but the vast majority of your game tools, at least, are going to kind of focus on the reflecting and responding. There's going to be a lot of multiple choice built into those. So the first one I want to show you is actually called Quizzes, and you may be familiar with it and have used it in your class. It has a great synchronous way of using, and I think you could probably use that synchronous way of using it when you're doing a Zoom call, but I also know that bandwidth can be an issue when you're doing Zoom or Google Meet or however you're using that synchronous piece, so that if you were doing that and adding an interactive quiz on top of it, you might be facing the issue of everything slowing down, at least in your household, especially if you have multiple people in your household Zooming or Google Meeting or doing classwork at home. So the nice thing about Quizzes is that it does connect to Google Classroom. So if you have classes, you can sync them right into Quizzes to keep track. And they are offering an asynchronous option. So one of the things that I did is this particular link works. It should be a game that should be able to set up. I'm going to escape out of the presentation so that I can copy it and put it hopefully into the chat for you. And we should be able to play this game at least for a couple more hours. I do have it set to a certain hour setting. So if you want to go in and see what it looks like from a student experience, I did just play this a minute ago, so it might not look the same for me as it will for you. But you'll see I have my quizz's name, And this is a homework game, so this is how it's set up. And I can hit replay and replay this game. Oh, look, there's some other people in here with me. So you see that while it is a homework game and it's asynchronous, it's also kind of synchronous. If students decide that they want to join at the same time and play, they can compete against each other. So it would be as simple as students, you know, letting each other know, hey, I'm going in to play the game. But the game's always here. Even if nobody else logs in, the game exists so that they can play. And I have it set up to play this really awesome music. You're welcome. So this one happens to be a Google quiz. And you might be getting the same question as me, but you probably aren't getting the same question as me. That's what makes it nice. It's a little bit harder for students to look on each other's screens when they're playing these games in the classroom. So my share button is going to be blue. And you'll see that it gives me points. It keeps track of my streak. I have it set up to give fun memes in between if you're playing on your own. Oh, there's all these people beating me. That's not fair. So you get the idea from this level. I'm going to exit out. If you guys want to keep playing, by all means, go ahead. Don't let it distract you. It's already distracting me. So this is one way that you can set up a review. Your power-ups. It's really easy. Students pick up on it really fast. It takes very little explaining. All they have to do is click on the link just like you did, and there they are. So I'm going to exit out so we can go back to our slide deck. So that's pretty much quizzes, how it works. And on the other end of it, I can show you my end, hopefully. And this is what it looks like when you set up an account for yourself. So what's really great about quizzes that I like as a teacher who's trying to make things happen quickly and I'm multitasking is the fact that a lot of the quizzes are already there. So you can go through and find other quizzes that other people have made and modify them and repurpose them for your needs. I'm a big fan of adapting other people's work in order to use it for quick turnaround sometimes. That said, you can create your own. There's a create a new quiz button right up here. I can go to my quizzes and hopefully we will see. I have a Google Sheets review. That one's from a little while ago. I think if I go to reports, this is the one that I'm running currently on Google Drive. You can see that there's 21 players and I have their accuracy. I might be able to get a little more detail. I can download it if I want more accuracy. I think if I click on it, yeah. So you'll see the accuracy, the number of questions, the player attempts, and I do have everyone's names down here so you can keep track of it. I wouldn't suggest grading this. I would say this is a fun review tool. There's a lot of different settings you can set up when you create a quiz and how you want it to work. You'll notice I can look at the questions and identify specific questions that my students might be having difficulty with. There's an overview where I can see specifically where the issues are. And I haven't tagged these, but I can actually link them to standards if I'd like to, which makes this pretty useful. So I'm gonna look at the Q&A here. Terry, is this for high school? I use this with middle school. If you're asking about the content was one I just picked. I was like, Google Drive, that's awesome. Let's see if we can use that. So I would use it at the high school level, and I used it with my 7th and 8th graders, and they loved it. They also like the live version that exists, but they enjoyed just competing with one another. You'll notice in here that I can share a link right to Google Classroom. If I don't have my class like uploaded and synced into here, that's another way that I can send it out, or I can just send out the link. All right, Katie, does quizzes work similarly to Google where you can simply get and share a link with students? Yep, that's exactly what I just went over, so you can get that. Steve, I just showed you how I got to the stats in here, so I think I answered that one. And yes, it is absolutely free, which makes it a fabulous tool. So that's the basics of quizzes. Like you can change the memes that come in between things or even turn them off if you feel they're inappropriate for your grade level. My 7th and 8th graders really loved the memes, so I left them in. They thought they were silly. You can set up your classes in here. I can create a class and build it that way if I want, or again, I can connect to Google Classroom. So that's just kind of the basics of quizzes. I'm going to go back to our slide deck here. And forgive me for not going into presentation mode because I'm going to be clicking on all this stuff. Do you have to have a Google Class set up? Nope, because I just used it with you guys and shared a link directly to you. But just keep in mind that then the students have to type their name in. And if they decided to be students, they might type in something else. That's why I liked using it. When I had it, I used it a lot with my Google Classroom, but you don't have to. You can send out a link and just do it that way. All right, the other option that I like that's a little bit different than quizzes is Quizlet. Quizlet is actually online flashcards. I like it because it's also a study tool. For as much as it can be a game, it's also a study tool, and it works really well for the introvert in me, in that a lot of times I'm not a super competitive person. It allows you to play games without being quite as competitive as I think Quizzes does. Quizzes gives you like this time feeling, like I need to answer the questions and I need to answer them as fast as I can. Quizlet's more of a like a review game sort of deal. So this link right here should take you to a set of flashcards that I have built in Quizlet. I'm gonna put in my chat here for you guys. There we go. And I'm going to click on it so you just get an idea what it looks like. Now, I don't think it's going to show me the student version just because I'm logged in probably, but this one's just online learning tips for students. So you'll notice it's built out as flashcards. That when I click on them, it gives me the answer. And you can do this with terms and vocabulary. I used it a lot with some vocabulary review or different concepts. You can build diagrams in, and there's a couple of different ways to study that you see over here on the left. I can test myself. Spell doesn't really work unless you're really looking for spelling, so I always tell my students to kind of avoid those two. They can use Learn, but there's also some games that they can kind of play over here. I love playing the live game. If you wanted to play the live game synchronously, you probably could, but I think there's some collaboration built in. But matching, so this is more of a simpler way of doing things, I would say. So we want to match, oh my, when is the best time to study while schooling from home? So you see why like this works for certain things, but I might not use it for other things if I were trying to match them up. It's sort of a drag and drop. Like those two match. And there's a time over here. And I found that my students really like, they'll play against the time if I do matching, and they'll see who gets the fastest time, because at the end it gives you a report. If I can just do this fast. I guess I should have chosen something with less text, huh? It'll tell you who's won at the end or who's winning. So see, it'll say who got first place. So the students do like that because they don't necessarily know who's winning, and will try to be the fastest person to match things. That one's pretty simple. If I go back into Quizlet here, you'll see from my dashboard, I have a couple of different ones. Like I had ISTE standards for students, but similarly, there are people who already have content or sets of flashcards already built so that you can kind of assign it out for studying. You can build your classes in here as well by creating your own classes. I believe this one also syncs to Google Classroom for those of you using Google Classroom. If I go to create, I can create my own study set. I can do it with diagrams as well. So if I were someone trying to work with maybe certain math diagrams, or like I was a health teacher and I wanted to use diagrams, I could use diagrams for that too. And I can change my visibility, like if I want it to be visible to everyone, or just certain classes, or people with a password, or just me. I obviously want this to be editable with just me, but if I was working with someone, I might people with a password it. So that gives you sort of an idea of how you can set it up and assign it. Once you set it up and assign it, if I go back to my other page here. So that's draft. This is the one I just did. You'll see down here as a teacher, I can add the set to a class or folder. I can edit it, I can share it, and I can also get class progress. So if I hit the share button, that's where I can share it directly to Google Classroom or Remind, or I can do the copying of a link, or I can send an email. So that's Quizlet. Not as much bang wow as Quiz is, I would say, but it's a little bit different. It allows you to create flashcards. And I've shared it with students. I've had students build their own flashcards in it as review, because what happens is they don't lose the flashcards. When I worked one-to-one, it was nice because they didn't lose flashcards. I found a lot of times when I had students do the old-fashioned flashcards on the card stock, old-fashioned, they would lose cards. So this was one of the ways I got around them losing cards. So that's Quizlet. Gimkit also has just gone online with an asynchronous version. Again, I don't think the asynchronous is as nice as Quiz is asynchronous, but you can use this. I see I have a question in here. Can you adjust other teachers' Quizlets to match what you want? Absolutely. What you'll do is you'll end up making a copy of it, and you can delete out their cards and add your own in, or you can change their terms. What I find is that if you use a textbook that's used by a lot of other teachers, and there's a certain unit or something, you can almost type in that exact unit, and you'll find that other teachers have already made flashcards for that unit. So just, it's nice to kind of dig around and search. What I like about most of these game tools is that you can use other people's quizzes and tests and flashcards and stuff that they've already built. There's a searchable library. Okay, so I'm a minute 20 in. I have Gimkit linked in here if you want to check it out. I like Gimkit. Some people don't like Gimkit. My students really liked it at the end of last year. I'm just clicking on the Play Gimkit so you can get an idea of what it looks like, and then I'm going to take us out of it. I do want to show you, I'm not going to give my last name because that's not proper etiquette. Ready to begin. So to complete this assignment, you must earn $500,000. So this is one where I would think a little bit about your age group, because Gimkit's like associated with making money. My 7th and 8th graders loved Gimkit, and I found that high school students like it too. When they play synchronously, they can kind of, they win things and can see that you lose money. You can win power-ups where you can freeze other people so that they can't keep answering questions, or they can't earn money, or they only earn half of their money. And I can shop, and that's where I can earn power-ups to mess with my other classmates. And you can turn power-ups off. My students found that the power-ups made it really competitive. So they would buy insurance, and oh, I don't have enough money to buy insurance, so oh well. So instead we'd say, okay, we'll just go back to the game maybe. So you get the idea. This is Gimkit. The students seem to like it, but again, all of these are kind of multiple choice. I absolutely can send a link, that's my bad. If you want to tinker around in here. They have a guide to remote learning, which I have linked there in that slide deck. This is the link to the game if you guys want to try the game and maybe mess with each other. See if the power-ups work. I haven't, because we're working remotely, the only person I have to play these games with is my compatriot Ben, and we haven't gone in and played this Gimkit together. So if you find that the power-ups work against each other, that's kind of fun if you want to push that out for students. Again, there's a guide to remote learning here. I think I can log in and show you real fast what this looks like on my end. So from a teacher's dashboard perspective, that question that was 19 hours ago, I can still go in and edit it. I can pull reports for those of you who want reports. No reports yet because nobody's really played it. You'll see I have assignments. I have classes over here. So I can create a class. I can also create a class without student accounts. So there's a couple of options. Gimkit has an upgrade. It's a paid for and a free, but a number of, I mean, the free stuff's pretty good right now, especially since we're, I think they're offering a lot of it for remote learning. And you'll notice they have a button right here for remote learning. So if you do create an account and go in, I would look at the remote learning information. They have some specifics and some guidelines on how you can make that most effective. So I answered that when I got the link. I got the Quizlet question. I'm going to keep us moving just because of time. So I'm going to jump Kahoot because I know a lot of people love Kahoot. Kahoot can be used asynchronously as well as synchronously. I do have a link in there if you want to tinker around with Kahoot. And you break down synchronous and asynchronous, which is best used for online learning. Absolutely great question, Kristen. Asynchronous means that it can be done at any time. The students can log in at 9 o'clock tonight, or they can log in at 8 o'clock tomorrow, and they're all kind of working on it on their own. Synchronous means that we're doing it together. So while synchronous is great because it gives us that feeling of, oh, we're all in class together, it's also usually bandwidth heavy. So when we do something together synchronously, a lot of times we end up using something like Zoom, like we're working synchronously right now, or we end up using something like Google Meet. So while it's nice to be able to do the synchronous, and I think you can still run these games synchronously, I'm running it with you and you see how I'm doing that. I'm copying the link and putting it in the chat and you guys are clicking in and doing it. So you can do it that way if you want. I find that a lot of times when it comes to online learning with multitudes of students, that I feel like asynchronous works better for me. I like the idea of holding synchronous office hours to have people check in with me, but that's just my personal opinion on how I feel about online learning. You need to look at what your district's asking you to do as far as synchronous and asynchronous. I know some districts are asking for certain things to be done synchronously, while other districts maybe don't have those guidelines. So I would definitely go to your district leadership and kind of ask those questions, which are they preferring you do currently? So Kahoot, I just threw that one in there if you want to check out Kahoot, but I'm going to keep us moving because I'm not just doing games. I'm also going to try to show you some other ways that we can do assessment. I don't want it to just be all the games, even though they're a lot of fun. All right, so the next thing I want to show you is Google Forms. I know probably a lot of people are familiar with Google Forms, but I know some people are afraid of Google Forms. It goes both ways. So I just wanted to point out that in the Google Forms slide here, I have linked in our Google Forms tutorials. Now this links right out to our Google site. And on our Google site, we have tutorials, like where do I find Google Forms? How do I add a question in Google Forms? There's one here that I did on how to send a Google form or quiz some time ago, and then additional ways to customize and use Google Forms. So this entire section is all Google Forms, and even Who Knew It has some access to a Google Forms piece as well. So I just wanted to let you know that this resource is here if it's something that you really want to dive deeper in. Google even has a first day of Google Forms link in here too. So if you were looking for more Google Forms stuff, the tutorials are in here. If you're looking for it in your drive, this is where you can find it. If you go down to the More button, that's where Google Forms is. It really works well with Google Classroom. You can set up a form as a quiz and it will correct student answers for you as long as they're multiple choice and you've selected what the correct answer is. One of the things that I came across in the past week that actually a friend sent to me online is this, which is really handy. So if you're not used to Google Forms, here are some pre-made forms that are really nice to steal. All right, so that's in the upper right-hand corner of that slide in yellow. And I can maybe throw it here in the chat real fast. Is this PDF. Each of these is a different type of Google Forms that deals with different DOK levels that was created. This is done by Coach John Craig. He is a PA educator coach, and I think now he might be a principal as well. And he sent these out, and these are editable forms, so you can steal them, like the 3-2-1, the exit ticket. There's one here specifically for Collins writing if you do Collins writing. And then these up here are DOK 1, 2, 3, and 4 forms that'll give you a kind of a guideline on how to pose your questions and answers. So if you click on it, it should make a copy. Fingers crossed. You'll notice it says use template up here. So it's already set up for you to use with your students. You just have to change your questions or choose the questions that you want to use for this particular piece. So just to give you an idea, these are already built in there. You can use them, repurpose them, set them up however you would like. I love the fact that they're already leveled for the DOK and Blooms. It makes life a little bit easier for all of us. And that's what I'm talking about. So the last piece I want to show you, and this is with 2 minutes left, is Formative. Formative is another way of assessing students. There's some things I really love about Formative, so I felt compelled to share it, even though it's maybe a tool we haven't shared before in some of our webinars. Formative works with Google Classroom. It will sync. It will also sync with Clever Rosters, and I think it will also sync with ClassLink. The nice thing about Formative is that you can embed PDFs and put the questions into the PDF so that students will click on the questions and they'll come up. So if you have like a PDF worksheet that you're married to is your favorite, you've always used it, or if you have a PDF text, you're like, I want them to answer certain questions in the text that we would normally answer in, say, class discussion, you can embed questions right into the PDF. You can also see student progress in real time. So if you had students in a Formative while you were doing a Zoom, you could see their work on your screen and be like, oh, you know, and give them some feedback right there, then and there if you wanted to. The nice thing also about Formative is that it has a bank of other Formatives that you can borrow from. So other educators, you can borrow their Formatives as well. And I believe you can link your standards to your questions. So you can use this assessment to kind of map your standards as you want. So I'm going to click in here. Ooh, I hope that's the right site. Yes. So we, again, have this with some tutorials down in our website, just 2 tutorials in here. I'm going to go into Formative really fast to give you an idea. And I think their premium might be free right now during COVID-19. So this is what it looks like for me. I can set up classes up here. See, Google Classroom Sync, Clever Sync. I can do, there's a tracker here where I can start to tag, if I tag standards, I can map them. There's different ways to sort. As you import students, there's more to see here. Obviously, I don't have any students in here. And there's a library. So I want to definitely point out the library because it's nice. You can grab other educators' work. You can search it in here, or you can have filters. You can filter it by Common Core standards. I think mainly Common Core, but there might be PA standards that you can link into, as well as subject, grade level, authors, etc. So I'm going to go back over here to Formatives, and I think I can take this awesome Formative. And this is what it looks like on my end. So you see I can add all of these standards up here to any of these that I would like to. I have a couple of different choices for questions. I can do an essay question, multiple choice, multiple selection, short answer, or a show your work. So math teachers, especially, the show your work gives a background that students can do their math problem on. But your show your work, you can also choose a background. So for instance, if I wanted to do the water cycle, I could put a picture on there with blanks and have them label the water cycle, which is nice. So this is another way to check for understanding that I think is great. I'm going to move this one back to short answer, which is what it was. You notice I can change and add different things. The things with stars are premium, so I can't do those, but it does have that math conversion, which I know has a special name, but I was an English teacher for 13 years. So you can also attach an image. You can copy your question, you can toss it, you can change the points that it's worth. I want to see if they already have any. All right, I'm going to put a PDF in here. So when I hit the plus, these are all of the options. I can grab a 30-day trial to do a lot of different things and add different pieces like graphing, but that's not what I'm going to do. I can do up to 20 pages of PDF a month, which is kind of my big, I loved the PDF piece as an English teacher. That was super important to me. So I can drag it from my computer or Google Drive. Let's see if I have any PDFs lying around. We'll just throw that one in there for now. And you'll see my PDF is in there, and then I can add an image or a text block. So if it's like a vocabulary word that I think maybe needs defined, I can do that. But I can also add like a multiple choice question in there. So if I wanted to, at that certain point, if I wanted a multiple choice question, I could do that so that students could, as they went through, and you'll see what happens is it shows up as like number 4. Like I can do checklist, boxes, and I can even trash options if I want to. I can tag it to a standard if I want to. and you get the idea. Okay, I would like to address any questions that we currently have. I do see that there is a hand raised. Megan. You might want to unmute, oh, or are you good? Okay. Awesome. All right, are there any more questions about some of these resources that I've shown you? I think I have a guest code. So if you want to, I'm going to throw this in the chat real fast at the risk of going over time and being scolded. You want to see what this formative looks like. So I can also snag a link. That probably would have been the better way to do that, Nicole. I can put it right into Google Classroom. I can also embed it if maybe I'm using an LMS. So it's a pretty robust platform. I like it for a lot of those reasons. I find that I used it on iPads, it works on iPads, and it works on Google Classroom. So after I edit it, I can assign, I have guest students assigned, but if I had my classes, I could assign it to specific classes or specific students. And when I go over to view responses, if anybody starts taking it, I will actually be able to see their responses in live on my end, which is kind of nice. All right, good. I do have that open to guests. All right, if there aren't any more questions, I'm just going to give us one more moment here. I'm probably going to end our webinar. I'm going to remind you that there is an Act 48 link that will be pushed out to you. So don't forget to do the Act 48. You want credit for being here. And if at all possible, I'm going to ask you to go to our webinar link and give us some feedback so we know what else that we can do to help you as well. So this one, and then this one down here. Who created Steal These Forms? That is John Craig, Coach John Craig on Twitter. If you're looking for him, he's at Coach John Craig, no H in John. And he is, oh, I wish I could tell you which school district he's out of right now, but I can't. It's out near Philadelphia. I can tell you that though. He's very active on Twitter. Can you post the links into the chat? Which links, Kristen? So what I can do is I'll copy this. The Act 48, yeah. I will post those in, not a problem. I will sling those into chat. Copy. There you go. So now you have both of those. I hope you guys have a great afternoon. There's another webinar here starting at 2 o'clock, which will have to do with helping parents understand phonics. So maybe we'll see you back here at 2 o'clock. If not, have a fabulous afternoon. Thanks.